I haven't ever had a serious, like medicinal trip on mushrooms or anything. I've done some microdosing and stuff like that, but honestly, one of the last times that I took ecstasy, I had like a very transformative experience on ecstasy, and it's like amazing because you just have so much dopamine in your system. And I remember I went into a bathroom to look at myself in the mirror and just like fix things because I was all like dressed up for festival and everything, and like, you know, your eyes are kind of, your pupils are all dilated and you're cruising, you're feeling good, and then like somebody had just like written on the mirror like, "This doesn't matter," like on the mirror, and I was like, no, it doesn't. I was like so like stoked on it. I was I ran back out of the bathroom and I was totally fine. But it was like a really cool experience, and it became kind of a thing like, this doesn't matter. Like all these things that you think matter, they just don't matter.
All right.
Take 2.
The microphone is not on mute this time. But that's actually a good segue into what we were talking about before with first time on camera or on the microphone. Rather than technical difficulties, first time for me speaking on camera was really awkward. And I think it was awkward for you because I filmed it, unless that wasn't your first video. When we did the Mental Health Awareness Month video.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call that my first time on video. You were doing the JP Weeklies thing, and you would like randomly turn the camera toward me, and I would be like, instantly, like just super weird. Like I still am not fully comfortable in front of a camera.
But that was first time me like just pointing the camera at you. Like I'm talking about first time where you were like intentional of recording a video, and maybe Mitch took 150 tries to send me a 20-second piece of him just explaining who he was.
I remember the first time watching your JP Weeklies, when you said that, it made me think of you putting the phone in Jackie's face, and Jackie paused.
Yeah, just like, quit it. Like there was always there were.
And I'm like, man, is this how are they like in a reality TV show all the time?
Pretty much. That's
well,
what
I had the
tried
GoPro,
to make my life.
and I had the arm, like the not
Stick, the one.
Yeah, I guess so. What the word I'm looking for? Like the tripod, but it would be like a handle.
Oh, the gorilla.
Yeah, the gorilla pod. And so with the GoPro, you get the super fisheye, and so I would just get it up really close in people's faces, and then I turned it into like I called the nose cam, and I put it right up under you, so it's like looking at your nose, but you can see everything. And
people questions too, like you would like get this close to my face, and then you'd be like, "So how do you feel?" And I would be like, "What?" Like it was like such a weird, deep question to ask.
Matt loved the nose cam. Have you met Matt Hunter? Yeah, you met Matt, my coach. Or previous coach from Athletic Lab?
Athletic Lab, yeah.
He used to love it. He'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" I was like, "Nose cam."
I don't know what to do with my hands. I get all Talladega Nights where I'm like,
it's just like
what do I
this.
do with my hands?
I still don't like it. I mean, I like being behind a camera. That's much easier. I don't even really like having my picture taken very much. I all of a sudden feel very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Were you awkward in school photos where you had to like prop all certain ways?
Yeah,
and
I don't know how you could not be awkward in those photos. They're like, no, sit back and tilt your head. No, the other way. And it's like,
look over your shoulder.
Yeah.
That was sexy, man. I got a little something in my pants.
You like that?
I'm
I had
uncomfortable.
back-to-back years in high school where I had the same BMX t-shirt on.
Josh didn't evolve from sophomore year.
My hair
like
was different.
same.
My t-shirt was the same. I don't know how I managed to make that happen because I didn't plan it. I know that I didn't plan it, but I remember looking at it as an adult and being like, oh, that's the same shirt. And it was a Van Homan. The brand was Little Devil. It was like a clothing company in BMX, and it was the Van Homan signature shirt. And I just really enjoyed it, I guess.
I really like that.
I only had one version, or one copy, or one pair. No. Yeah, no, like one. I just had one
have
shirt.
A pair of shirts.
No, I know. I just had like the
Just
shirt,
slightly,
and I didn't wear the same shirt every day. So somehow I
was gonna say, was that like
Is that
Wednesday
your favorite shirt?
it was just meant to be. Yeah, school photo day, and I just had it on.
You're like, I'm definitely breaking this out again.
You'd like this. This is a random thought. It came back from me in high school. All my football friends used to look at my forearms because I'm, 16, 17.
forearms, right?
And they're like, bro, what do you do to like build up your forearms like that. And I'm like, I ride a bike. And well, that was a joke from some. But then they're like, dude, you want to come lift? And I was so anti-lifting and exercising because like I believed I was exercising plenty with work and BMX. So, yeah.
I had the blind tips, white blind.
Oh God.
Yeah, calico cat.
I had that in middle school.
I want to see that photo.
Dude, I rocked it hard, man. I always said this face is meant for the video. I don't know why we've been doing audio. We got this face.
When we have all this potential here in front of
we're
us.
Stepping up. Eventually, we're gonna step up to having my studio all dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a work in progress, but we'll have a dialed camera. Yeah, it's progression. We were talking about first times on video before. I remember when I was at Kerwin's event, he was showing his very first time trying to film like business videos or his social media videos about what he does. And it was just so funny because I related to it 100% because it's just like saying something and then like, oh fuck no, like that, nope, cut it, and then like get like 10 times. Just stumbling and getting super frustrated. You remember when you were trying to help me film videos a couple years ago?
It was like terrible to do. I don't even really like to help him with videos all that much because he gets so frustrated and so like.
No, I don't anymore. I did though.
Was that the course?
Yeah, that was when I was trying to film it myself. Well,
so
Jackie was trying to help me, and that was a couple years ago.
Because he's wearing his little boy shirt. We just talked about that this weekend. He's wearing that blue and white striped shirt. It like instantly makes him look 12. Like I don't know what it is.
That's so funny.
Can't wear that shirt.
Yeah, that's the story that you're talking about was we were doing the group coaching thing, and you're like, tell about yourself, and I'm like. Well, first it took me like an hour to write it, and then I literally took 100 and something takes. And the same thing as Kerwin. I could totally relate to Kerwin too, because I was like, fuck, shit, I hate you. And I finally got it, and I'm so loud. I'm like, hey, my name's Mitch. They posted Josh's and then mine in the group, and I was like, wow, Josh is like super relaxed, and I'm like in your face.
Yeah, I'm like yelling at people. I'm yelling. Even now, I'm like. Kind of that's why I keep yawning because I'm kind of nervous, and that's like a weird tick that I have when I'm nervous.
Let's dive into that. Why are you nervous? Before Mitch gets all into the vagus nerve and sympathetic talk, because I know that's where you're going.
Yeah, parasympathetic going.
Oh yeah, it's just like.
What are you nervous about?
I'm not a huge fan of being in front. We just talked about it.
No, but why?
I'm a huge fan of being in front of the camera. I don't like it as much.
But why?
I don't know.
Exactly.
No, I'm just curious because.
Yeah, if I knew, I would tell you. Because it's like not like we don't have conversations all the time.
Yeah.
It's just.
I get nervous too, Jackie.
Yeah. See.
I just feel like somebody's like I gotta perform.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want people to like.
I'm just curious.
I was gonna say, what is your purpose behind like drilling us with those questions?
So you can feel a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, so you can really start yawning.
No, so you can recognize it and then just let it go and just talk because that's all it is. But that's what we were talking about, Mitch and I think one of our last episodes together, Mitch, we were talking about embrace or like the obstacles the way, so like embracing resistance and like going towards it. Oh, yeah. And usually there's why I'm asking is because you know this, you've been working with Kara and diving into this on your own, but like when you have an uncomfortable act that you're participating in or facing and like seeing resistance, people say, like you just did, I don't like it, but there's why. And the reason I'm asking is because there's something behind that, I don't like it, that's making you say and feel like you don't like it.
Did I say I don't like it? Is that what I said?
I thought that's what you said.
I can't remember now.
Because you're like
rewind it.
Yeah.
I feel play back the tape. I don't know if I feel a specific way about it. I don't know. I don't want to be filmed. Like I don't know. I don't like the way I come across.
Because the reason I ask is because when I first started doing it, and the reason why I was getting so frustrated was because I was trying to make it like as perfect as could be, and I was new to it and I wasn't experienced, so I was already frustrated about that. And so if I fucked up anything or if it just would frustrate me because I was so worried about what the viewer was thinking or the listener. And then I talk about this all the time. Dave Asprey helped me with this 4 years ago when someone asked a question before I went on his stage to speak with him for his book signing tour on his podcast in a live audience. some guy stood up and asked, like, hey, I'm giving a presentation tomorrow at work, and like I'm super nervous. What can you help me with? And he was like, stop making it about you. The minute you make it about you is when you get super critical of yourself. You start judging yourself from the audience perspective that you're worried about, rather than focusing on your delivery. Like, what are you trying to deliver? And that helped me feel way better about getting on that stage, and then with filming videos or recording podcasts, because I felt compelled to want to share something. But when I was making it about me, trying to be perfect, trying to judge myself from others' perspectives, then that's when I get uncomfortable. And that's what I was asking, was just, you know, what about it? Like, are you worried that people are going to think that you don't know what you're talking about, you sound weird, or this or that? Because they probably are. They probably aren't.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
don't know
not
if I'm
your
really worried
responsibility.
about what people think, but you want to present yourself a certain way, and I don't think that's something that I actively think about on a daily basis, like in my normal life. Like, I'm not like worried, like, oh, am I like sitting upright? Like, does it look okay? Like, I just, live my life. And
Why is that though?
have bad
Because you don't know
posture,
the people that are looking at you, so you don't consciously think about them judging you.
You just swallow your gum.
Yeah, just burp really loud. Trying to throw up on the table.
Because you said like you don't usually care what your day to day is.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you and I are talking, I'm not worried about like what I look like or what my hands are doing or what my arms are
You're
doing.
just giving up on trying to impress me.
Exactly. So
That dopamine's changed to oxytocin, so now you're just bonded and there's no impressions to be made.
I could meet Jason Momoa tomorrow and still not be weird and self-conscious about what my body is doing and like the way I'm moving and stuff like that. But I don't know, when there's a camera on you, you can see it back, so you can like watch yourself doing all these dumb things, and I'm like, oh man, am I doing one of those dumb things right now? And like that's what, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this later, I'm gonna be like, stop touching your face, touching your face, so it's just, I think it's more about me watching it back. So maybe I just gotta stop watching
Or
videos of myself.
start reframing what you're watching and learn from it. Like Dr. Joe used that as an example all the time. You watch yourself do the salsa, next time you're going to do it better, because he uses that example all the time.
If you see me do the salsa, you're going to do it way better.
Yeah. But that's interesting, because that reminds me of my psilocybin experience when I looked at myself in the mirror.
Yes. Let's talk
I know
about
Mitch is
psilocybin.
excited about that.
Let's talk about
From what I share with you,
psilocybin.
Mitch, what is your perspective on like looking at yourself in the mirror when you're on psilocybin? Maybe you could explain what psilocybin is for people listening that don't know.
Psilocybin is mushrooms, is magic mushrooms. And psilocybin is the
I feel like a wind chime should always play when someone says magic mushrooms. Like, da-da-da-da-da.
is psilocybin the mushroom, or is it
It's the active ingredient,
Yeah.
and
So it's
chemical
the active
in
ingredient.
mushrooms.
Yeah. What do I think about looking in the mirror? It's just trippy shit. I mean, people, you see some crazy stuff, people report that. I mean, I've looked in the mirror before and done that for a while and seen myself turn old. Like
I
an old man.
had that thing happening. I was telling Jackie,
Had
like,
a face melt.
because like I first looked at myself, and then like I truly saw myself rather than the facade of which my ego protects me from. And then I was like, oh, like I got really emotional. And then I started to like focus in on my eyes. And then I started to see like my brother and like my dad and then like an older version of me. And it just kept like going back and forth. And I was like not scared. I was just like, all right.
Wow.
And then it was just super
All
interesting.
right.
And that was the only moment I had by myself that night when Jackie took Cheddar out. And that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, I want to go look at a photo of my brother. And then I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. And then on the way out, I was like,
Go to the bathroom.
that's me. What's up?
What's up, bro?
And it just led me to think, obviously, like what we always talk about is deep level shit. That's just where we are in our lives. But it just led me to thinking days in, days out since. It's only been a couple, but like even before that, always thinking like, like the gap of what we feel and what people perceive us as, and then what we see ourselves as, and then what we put out on the internet, and how it's not true or congruent to actually how we feel majority of the time. But also that going further is like how many people live in that cycle and don't recognize it. Like they just put out their best selves. Maybe they avoid the mirror, but they're like trying to create the best avatar of themselves, but it's not how they feel inside. They're just doing something to impress people based on what they think people are going to see them as.
Yeah, what I think, what you're describing is when we all have filters, and we filter out 99% of what's going on. But when you take psilocybin, that filter is removed, and it can be overwhelming. So much information coming in, but yeah, you're kind of getting to some of the root of your personality and some of those thoughts and emotions that you even put up as a front.
I like that. It allows you to remove the filter.
Yes.
That's a really good point. 'Cause that's what in NLP they talk about, these lenses that we see life as. I see them as perspectives, lenses, metaphor, whatever works, but how an event, an experience, something can swap or like form the lens in which you see your life moving forward, and how things can contribute to that lens, make it thicker and thicker, or make it more transparent. It's a decision. Because I've had moments in my life that it's like, oh, let me see what this lens is. Let me remove it for a second.
Yeah.
And then obviously like psychedelics help a lot more. They do all the work for you, and then you just hang on and see where the ride takes you.
I got a great example of that. So one of the most transformative ways. So I've always used mushrooms like recreationally and just been crazy, going to concerts and just getting fucked up. But the first time I ever used them therapeutically, I found out about this research that MAPS was doing and Tim Ferriss was talking about how it treats.
Tim Ferriss is donating a bunch of money to Johns Hopkins, setting up psilocybin or psychedelic specific hospitals now.
And so he was talking about drug resistant depression and how it could treat that. And I was in the corporate world, and from the outside looking in, perfect life, big income, lots of promise, taking over a multi-million-dollar company eventually, possibly. But I hated it, and making that decision to leave was such a big decision and there's so many factors that I really needed to see it for what it was. And so I was at a concert, and I had a huge dose, probably similar to what you did, like 3.5 grams, 5 grams, which is a heroic dose. And
that's an actual term they use. It's not
term.
slang.
Yeah.
I've heard professors use that term.
And so what would happen back then is I had so much anxiety that I was dealing with, but I knew that if I ate a bunch and I kept eating them, it would be borderline psychotic. I would be extremely anxious, but then I would break through that, like you're breaking out into the atmosphere and like you're in space. And when you get there, it's like all that stress and anxiety and that baggage kind of falls to the wayside, and you see things for what it is, and I would feel so connected and so much love and compassion and passion. And I realized I'm like, there's got to be more to this. I've got to understand what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I so unhappy? And so what I did is I did a microdosing protocol. I would take a dose, and I'd wait every third day, and then I would meditate 20 minutes twice a day, and I got these messages. And they're real simple, and that's how trips are. I don't know if you had that experience, but it's like I always bring something with me, whether it's like a pebble that I found in the creek that made me think of something. But it's like, man, this is the thought that I need to hang on to. And so I got these 3 messages, and one was, you got to breathe, like just breathe. And the next one was, you have to quit reacting to everything. Like you're so reactive, you're just so quick to lash out, to react. And then I started seeing the triggers that were causing the anxiety, and it was so silly. And that's usually what it is for me with mushrooms, is like whatever I'm focusing on, I'm so stressed out about, and the problem I'm trying to solve, the intention that I have going into the trip is so silly. And it's like, you are being ridiculous. And so I started laughing at these situations, and then in real life, that very situation happened. And I felt my body go into like a sympathetic, like fight or flight. I felt my whole body tense up, and then I just kind of caught myself, and I smiled, and I was like, took a breath, didn't react, and was like, fuck off. And I went and quit my job.
How many days?
I did about 2 months of it, 2 months. And I was taking big doses on the weekend too.
But I mean, to where you were like, oh, I'm gonna quit my job. How the decision was made.
Yeah.
How quickly a turnaround was that to where you actually acted on it?
real fast.
Yeah.
Like I would put maybe the next day.
So that's actually really interesting because you and I have talked about this. So like you and I have taken like an abrupt approach to switching lanes career, so to speak. Like we just had an event. For me, it was a third brain tumor diagnosis. For you, it was psychedelics and these realizations. Like and I'm not joking about it. Like it's it's medicine, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But then we were like, nope, this doesn't feel right. No plan. Just we're gonna go this way.
Oh yeah.
But Jackie, you had a similar, I'd say, change of lanes, but it was more intentional.
Yeah.
Not that ours weren't, because we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't make a plan or we didn't have a decision before to like, I'm gonna go do this. We just, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I need to do something else. But you were like more intentional in like the approach and the decision.
Well, I was like a 5-year plan type of girl, probably up until 2 or 3 years ago. Like I had my life mapped out since I was
And then I came along.
12 or 13. Yeah, pretty much. So I just always knew what I was going to do. I gave myself this many years to compete and train in Taekwondo. Then I was going to go to college. Then I was going to do this, and I was going to become this, and then I was going to live here, and just kind of try to have like a lot of control over the situation and everything. And actually, when I started experimenting with some drugs in college is when I started realizing that was pretty ridiculous. I have never had a serious like medicinal trip on mushrooms or anything. I've done some microdosing and stuff like that, but honestly, one of the last times that I took ecstasy, I had like a very transformative experience on ecstasy, and it's like amazing because you just have so much dopamine in your system. And I remember I went into a bathroom to look at myself in the mirror and just like fix things because I was all like dressed up for festival and everything, and like, you know, your eyes are kind of, your pupils are all dilated and you're cruising, you're feeling good, and then like somebody had just like written on the mirror like, this doesn't matter, like on the mirror, and I was like, no, it doesn't. I was like so like stoked on it. I was like fuck you, and like just like ran back out of the bathroom, and I was totally fine. But it was like a really cool experience, and it became kind of a thing like, this doesn't matter. Like all these things that you think matter, they just don't matter that much. So that kind of became like, I can do whatever I want. If I want it to be athletic training, if I want to like move halfway through my career, even though it's not, they say it's not good to change jobs or positions.
They say a lot of things.
They do. They say a lot of things. Like, it's like, you just do what you want because that doesn't matter. Like, this doesn't matter. So that was kind of my experience looking into a mirror.
Very similar.
While high. But, I mean, ecstasy is not great for you. Like, I don't recommend it like as a constant or recreational thing, but I do think that everybody should try it once.
I haven't. The only things I've ever ingested in my body was alcohol, marijuana, and then mushrooms. And I was 30. Was I was 30 or 30? No, I was about 30 the first time I ate mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm only 31 now. But
was that you and your buddy?
No, it was Jackie and I.
Y'all ate a good amount or like a little bit?
No, we just had
It
a
was
little
like
bit.
2.5, or supposedly. It just didn't work the way we wanted it to.
2.5 would get your ass sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's something that BMX, I always had this mindset from my parents and BMX that if I wanted to become pro in BMX, that I couldn't drink alcohol, I couldn't do drugs. Mm-hmm. And my parents were also lenient with that. Like, they were like, oh, like, if you're gonna do that, just let us know. We'd rather know, come pick you up, or you just do it here at the house. And so like I never had like this weird like rebel desire. Yeah. So I didn't really mess with anything, and I didn't smoke weed till I was 18.
Same.
And that was because I thought I was gonna die. I was on a road trip with Brandon, Johnny, and 2 other dudes in January in Western Canada. Driving, we did motocross BMX arena tours. We did one big one each weekend in each province, from west to east. And during one of the treks from one province to the next, we were on these crazy mountain highways where you couldn't see the road. There was so much snow. The cliff was right there. This dude was driving like an asshole, and he just thought he had it. And then one of the dudes was just like a major pothead, like cranky if he didn't get his weed. Like,
Yeah.
and like Brandon had smoked before. John, like I think everyone had but me, and I was just like, I'm gonna die in this van. We were traveling like a big cargo
So I
van,
better smoke some weed.
and I was like, I'm gonna die on this
gonna
trip.
die in this
I may as
van.
well try and just see what happens. And yeah, I was, and I'm not saying that I think people at a young age should experiment with drugs. I definitely didn't, but as an adult, I started hearing more Joe Rogan talk about why people need to smoke and why people need to feel anxiety around the things they've been ignoring,
Yeah.
and why people need to have psychedelics, and then learning more about the research with people, especially like myself and yourself, that have had like life-altering, life or death experiences, or people that are facing terminally ill diagnosis or like cancer, things like that, and like all the benefits that come from it. But also
Oh,
like,
can you imagine they do sensory deprivation with those people? That's how they do that research. So
Yeah.
it's like
Put
complete
me in
sensory,
a
and then like a heroic dose, like a 4 gram
Dude,
like
bring it
dose,
on.
and then like blindfold headphones
Love
where they
it.
like play like no lyric, like very calming music,
Yeah.
and then they just sit them in a chair and they let them like just.
I've read about that.
Trip
I think
their
it was
balls off.
John Hopkins was doing that, and I was reading about it, and I was like, really? But I was scared, but I was also interested.
It's
I
like,
was scared
that
to do
would be
it.
So terrifying, like just
Oh,
sensory
I was
deprivation,
like,
just
bring
like
it on.
yeah, let's
But
do it.
yeah, it was just really interesting how that
I was
stuff
opposite.
works.
I was super sheltered and told like don't drink, don't do alcohol. Like I won the Dare Award in like 5th grade.
That is
Yeah,
wild to
I
me.
got that.
That is
but
wild.
then like I had friends that introduced like, hey, have a beer, and I'm like, wow, this makes me feel kind of cool. And then smoking weed, I was terrified. I was the last one to smoke weed, but that was like 16, 17, something like that. And my buddies were like, we're going camping, and you're gonna smoke, or we're gonna tell your parents, or something like that. And I'm like, God damn it, just let me hit it. And I remember
It's
it
extreme
wouldn't work. I
coercion.
kept hitting it. My buddy goes, Mitch, take a hit, and then like breathe in, and then look up to the sky and let it out. And when I did that, it was like, whoa, whoa. I didn't know where I was at. I was like, this is so funny. I was silly. I love that it was like just so silly, and I was hungry, and we were
Yeah.
just like being crazy.
You had like the best experience.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah.
I was 18 when I smoked for the first time, and I remember I went to. Do you remember when foam parties were like a
Yeah,
thing, like in
yeah.
college?
Yeah.
And I went to a foam party with a group, and we like.
Get lots of diseases that way.
Oh yeah, just the amount of bacteria. Now I
Yeah.
think about it, and I'm like, ooh, like
Yeah.
no, don't do that. But they would fill clubs with soapy foam, and people would just like get wet and really
Dude,
gross
weird,
and
gross
like
stuff,
and like grind up against each
I've
other.
been
And,
to one.
yeah, it was like, the same, like paint parties got really popular, and like day glow was a thing, and like
Never
foam
went to
parties
those, but
and
I've seen
stuff.
them.
We threw a foam party. So I was a promoter for parties, and we threw this crazy foam party, and everybody got this terrible rash.
Yeah.
afterwards.
Oh, no.
It was like strep or something. It was
No,
bad.
I mean, I didn't get it. I didn't get any bacteria or diseases from my foam party. Thank
Allegedly.
goodness. Yeah, allegedly. But yeah, we smoked a joint before, and I just remember the guys were being such assholes because I was like, I don't feel that different. And they were like, maybe you didn't inhale, and I was like, that's so annoying. Like you don't have to mansplain breathing to me. Like I get it. Like I understand how to
Mansplain.
inhale, like smoke. Like I get the premise of it. And they were like, no, you have to like breathe it into your lungs. And I was like, where the fuck else would I be breathing it? Like I'm
I
not
didn't
just
know how to do
holding it in my mouth. Like that's such a weird concept to me that like people, I don't know. It was like
You were breathing into your stomach. That's
like
wrong.
I got pissed, and then like my boyfriend at the time was super high and giggly, and I was like, you're fucking annoying. Like I was just over it. And then we had a great time at the party and everything, and looking back now, I was like, I was probably a little high. I was probably just thinking it was going to be this like crazy thing, and
it's
then
like
it was
Josh and our mushroom trips before, where he'd like not. That's why I was like made him eat a big dose because I wanted to feel something. Because
Yeah.
he would eat something, he'd be like, "Yeah, I don't feel shit." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
But I think it's just being tuned into that frequency. You know what I mean? Like it's.
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to believe that somebody else can't feel that, but if it's like your
Yeah.
first time, you don't know what the hell to expect.
Yeah.
So we ate that one. I went hiking, and we ate, maybe a gram of psilocybin, which would probably be like a gram or two of mushrooms. And I was kind of feeling it, but I had a big breakfast. But when we
Yeah.
smoked, we were coming out, and I was like, okay, now I can feel it. But it was so like I remember going to the bathroom, and everything was kind of moving a little bit, but I wasn't tuned into that whenever we were walking up the mountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. When we tried mushrooms, I think we ate too much food with it. I think they processed in our system,
yeah,
like
for
because
sure.
we mixed up in like a shake,
Yeah, we made like a big smoothie.
and we just like threw them in the blender, and we're like,
Yeah.
oh, people.
And now
take
that
them
I've
in
eaten them
powdered
straight, they definitely like they don't taste that bad.
Well,
to
Josh
where-
did a lemon teek, that's T-E-K, which means you grind up your mushrooms and then you put lemon juice all over the mushrooms and let them sit for about 15 minutes, which breaks down the mushrooms,
Yeah.
and so that your stomach doesn't have to break that down for you. So it is a slingshot.
Yeah, I've heard people take like big vitamin C pills and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
when they
I
eat
didn't know about
mushrooms
vitamin C,
and
but I guess that has something to do with it.
yeah.
The
So
enzymes and the vitamin C.
So
Yeah.
we've all been high performing people in society, and we've had great benefit from either marijuana or psilocybin. I wouldn't say much benefit from alcohol other than just partying, but
Social lubricant.
but more damage
that's
to
the
our
best
to our
part
brains.
of
But yeah, I
alcohol.
guess because it removes your fucking ego. Like you're not scared or shy. For me, it helped me talk to people,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
but that's not a good coping mechanism,
No.
especially at a young age. But
I don't mind it.
what what is your perspective with like why people are like, oh, like marijuana is the devil or like psychedelics? Like I guess before I ask you that, like from my perspective, what I've heard is people like are super against it because it's illegal. And a lot of people come from the religious background with like
Yeah, yeah.
land of the or law of the land, even though our capital medicinally and recreationally legalized marijuana, or the United States, I should say. But it's just interesting, like, because like Joe Rogan, for example, just $100 million deal to Spotify for his podcast, like
Yeah.
been performing stand up and, many other amazing people, high performing people in society that use psychedelics.
Well, you got to think about the propaganda that was
Yes.
even behind like
Reefer
marijuana.
madness.
Yeah, like the reefer madness and like this is your brain on drugs. So it's like
Yeah.
always really funny. You can find them all on YouTube now. You can look up that the government was doing experiments and using LSD and psilocybin and marijuana, and they were like testing it out on people and seeing what it was like. They were doing that like in
Yeah.
the 40s and the 50s. Like
Yeah, dude.
it was a big thing that they were doing.
I'm still scared to eat acid because it's called acid.
Right. Yeah.
Like that sounds weird.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Yeah, but I mean, the war on drugs that was started back in the 90s with the Clinton administration really demonized specifically marijuana. That's when the whole like gateway drug thing started. But
We learned that all that stuff too in the 13th
and
documentary.
I think it's just like, I don't know. I kind of
Nixon. I thought it was Nixon.
It was Nixon, then Reagan drove it all in.
Right, right,
So
right.
you
Used
had
it
the hippie
because they
movement.
used it to.
I think
they
I'm
labeled it
talking
against
about
the
like the stop and
hippies.
frisk and stuff like that, as far
Yeah,
as
yeah,
like the
yeah.
incarceration rates and stuff like that. That really started to demonize just like recreational weed even more so, because I think it was back in the Nixon Reagan era in the 60s and 70s, people were very open and free with recreational drugs, and I
then
think
so
it
they
went
made
through a
it like
weird
these
phase.
hippies, don't be a hippie, don't
Yeah.
be a
Because they were also the ones protesting the war.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like degenerate, hippie, liberal things to do, while all the cool rich kids are snorting coke in the 80s and like
Yeah,
in the
for sure.
90s.
That
and, like,
was what
that
was
was a big
interesting
thing.
about the 13th documentary. Crack, which is the lower grade version
baking soda and
of cocaine,
Yeah.
was in the lower income communities, which were the ones that were labeled as criminals,
Yeah.
which were going to jail, which were providing dollars for the privatized prison systems and the owners.
Yeah. And people would say they would just like find like big bags of crack just like in abandoned houses and places where homeless people were, and places where like impoverished, like just in alleyways and stuff, and like
Oh,
impoverished places. Like they would just
It's so
plant it.
crazy though that marijuana and mushrooms got lumped into that
That's
category
crazy.
because, I mean,
And the imprisonment is the same.
Yeah.
So whether or it was, I should say, like you're
like,
found with
tax
like
dollars are
an eighth
going
of,
towards incarcerating people for ingesting some kind of plant or chemical on the other
Yeah.
end, which I don't agree with
Well,
that,
Not
but
at all.
it's
I'm
like
gonna tie it I'm gonna go back and tie it back to like a racial thing, or like an American thing. Like if
Yeah.
you think back to the 30s and the 40s, it went back way before that. But this whole like era of whiteness that started in the pure, wholesome American family and what they were trying to promote after the Depression. You know, like marijuana has been like a spiritual, holistic tool used by indigenous
Originated
people.
in Christianity.
Yeah,
It's
like
been
all over
recognized
the
in the
place.
Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, I think it became like,
A stigma.
yeah, like, and it didn't fit into that pure American.
And the war on drugs
Neighbor,
made a lot of
like-
money.
And the less you know, something you don't know about, you demonize it and you become afraid of it, and then
Yeah.
you pass that on to somebody else and you create this.
So generations still have that. And even now, I mean, like, people definitely, there are situations where people start smoking weed and then they like just go down a rabbit hole. And that happens. And I don't think everyone
Like
should
a
smoke
gateway
weed.
drug?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
the gateway theory doesn't make sense now that I've learned more about like through
Yeah.
SPECT imaging and like brain pathways and personality types.
but like
Because
addiction theory
none of
makes
us
sense.
got hooked on heroin, but our brains aren't wired that way. But other
Right.
people, they could, like Tony Hoffman, someone I highly respect. He talks about how it just took him smoking weed once in high school, and then he was in prison 5 years later because he broke and entered to get some money and some drugs, like hard drugs, and he talks about his addiction with heroin and stuff like that, and he's been clean 13 years.
Right.
But for him, and like Rogan talked about this a while ago, which really got me fired up because he's like, we have a diabetes issue in this country, but sugar's not illegal. Sugar's not a drug.
Shit.
Your label is a drug, but it's a drug.
Yeah.
But like, why aren't we banning McDonald's burgers?
Yeah.
People could say they got diabetes because they started on milk and then went to sugar. Like.
I think it's your body. You should be able to do whatever the hell you want to. But I think all drugs should be legal, and a big part of that is the quality. Think about the instances where you got drugs that are cut with different things,
Yeah.
like fentanyl, and people are doing.
How
cocaine.
about the war against alcohol being illegal and like how much crap that caused in
got
our
an
country,
export from.
and now it's everywhere. But
Yeah.
like,
You mean prohibition?
yeah, prohibition, that's the word. Yeah, I was looking for that. But like when that happened, the war like was started on the United States, trying to say alcohol was going to be banned or was banned. And think about now where it's like people get upset if there's no wine or beer at gatherings or
Real upset.
things like that. It's like that there's nothing positive about that. Like even like there's nothing. Like it just harms your body.
What?
Yeah.
Alcohol?
Well, it's a poison.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
It's a toxin to your body. Your body filters it like a toxin.
Sure.
That's why people get a quote unquote beer belly. It's not that. It's the food getting deprioritized
Yeah.
so the ethanol can get
Purge the
metabolized.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting because we think about these things in the wrong perspective. Like these guys, like people would think of us as like, using marijuana or psychedelics, but like we don't drink alcohol, or at least on even somewhat of a monthly basis.
Yeah.
We don't smoke cigarettes. We don't do other damaging drugs. We are, contributors to society, trying to help people. We're being authentic and vulnerable, but in some people's eyes, we're sinners or we're going against the law and we're
Yeah.
labeled as bad, yet they're being hypocrites from
Yeah.
the way they live. And it's just crazy because it's like, but you drink alcohol every night,
Yeah.
but it's legal.
Knocking yourself out.
Like why? Like how? Like it's so crazy how I feel like our country's priorities are just so warped.
I think a dependency on anything is an issue.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like whether
As
it's
humans,
sugar
we have
or
sorry.
whatever. No, it's fine.
I was saying, as humans, we have a drive. That's one of the human drives is to, procreate, is to get outside of your head.
Yeah.
And how do you pick your poison, if you will.
There are
But
just
But
some-
we're all learning right now. We don't need those things. Like I'm 31 days now. Like, and this I feel like this sounds funny, like or bad, but like I'm 31 days where I haven't smoked.
pot.
Yes, I haven't smoked pot, marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it, cannabis. And I've been learning a lot about that. And not that I used it as an escape, but I was noticing like it was becoming like a tool to maybe alleviate stress. But in my mind, that was better than, Xanax or alcohol or something like that, which I didn't do.
Yeah.
But now I'm learning like there's so many things. Like I never really experimented with psilocybin before on that level. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that again for a couple months at least,
Yeah.
But with marijuana, I'm like, well, let me go a couple more months and just see like what I notice.
Because you can get into a fog. Like it can really mess with people. And like if people use it as a crutch to like not do things or to be unmotivated
Yeah.
or they're doing it every day and it's not a positive thing in their life. Like it becomes
Same
a problem.
thing like food.
Yeah.
Eat too much salt, you can kill yourself. But salt's very important for high functioning.
Yeah.
I definitely
body.
use it to like check out in the past, like to fill times that I was bored.
Yeah.
And I noticed, like, so I did 4 weeks. I think I went 28 days or something like that. But I could just notice, like, the next day I was in like a crazy fog. I just couldn't quite find the words that I was looking for. It just didn't make me as productive as I want to now.
Right.
And we've talked about this. Like, I love it. I love pot, but for me, it has to be done in a way that makes the most sense for me. And
you're talking about smoking, though, in terms of consumption. You're not talking about edibles or vaporizer.
Any of that. I mean, any consumption of cannabis.
Any, like,
I don't
THC
know about
consumption.
edibles would do that, but it depends on how much you ate, I guess.
Yeah. There's so many variables to it, but I think that's what's important is, like we said, like sugar can be very detrimental to one's life. But
I've woken up much more hungover from eating sugar than I have from smoking weed, for sure.
But sugar's another thing, like people like say like, oh, I can't live without bread. Like I can't imagine living without cereal.
I told my dad, I was like, you got to read Grain Brain, and he started reading it, and my dad's literal quote was, I'll get Alzheimer's to have some bread, like, to live with bread in my life. He's like, that's okay. He goes, you can change my diaper. I'm not worried about it. And I was like, I'm not like even going to participate in that conversation. But yeah.
Well, she's like, we're questioning the things that we put in our body all the time. And is this good for me right now? And does this represent who I want, or help me be a better person, represent who I want to be, and eventually really help other people as well. So I can't be high all the time and do my job, but I can enjoy it intermittently from time to time to relax. I think that's what we're all just trying to do is get out your head a little bit, relax, put your feet up. But then, like she said, it can become a dependency and a bad. For me, I'll start to begin. I had this conversation with you yesterday. I start to finally got it.
Yeah.
I'll start to think that I need it for sleep because it does help me go to sleep. I mean, I never fall asleep on the couch, and the nights that I smoked recently, I fell asleep on the couch. It was great. I'm like, oh my god, do I need to do this all the time? No. I feel like an idiot the next day. I can't speak. But used every now and then. I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
What is Cheddar doing?
Getting kitty.
Yeah, I think too, what I've been experiencing on my educational detox is even finding routes of trying to learn a shit ton to distract me from my actual feelings, my emotions, and my thoughts and limiting beliefs. Yeah. And learning would be considered a positive thing, right. But you take it too extreme, it can be negative. Yeah. And that's what I've been looking forward to, is just learning more about myself from just recognizing myself.
Well, I think you have to do a deep dive, and if you can't go to a party without drinking, like that says something more about you. Or if you can't, spend a night with your spouse without smoking a little bit, or if you can't like just sit alone with your thoughts without smoking or drinking, like that's where the problems come in. You know what I mean? Like you gotta have to do a deep dive. Like if you and your friends go out every weekend and you're constantly drinking when you're together, try experiencing your friends sober. Do you still like them as much? Because that should be a big thing. Yeah. Like
when I was a wild man, and I had several beers every night, drinks. And when I quit drinking altogether, I had to take a medication when I had Lyme disease that would make me violently ill. Mm. And I went on bachelor parties and weddings and all these things, and some of my craziest friends, I saw them drinking all day long, but never getting out of control. And I was always out of control, and I was absolutely the one that was using it to escape the anxiety and the negative shit that I was dealing with my health. And so whenever I cut that out, I felt like, first time being on camera, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know how to interact with people. And people were like, hey man, where's like crazy ass Mitch at? And I'm like, I don't know. And I realized like how much that allowed me to just act however I want.
Right.
And I can't act that way if you're not drinking.
Mm-hmm. And
it's hard watching people that are fucked up and you're trying to hang out. This happened another weekend with some friends. We were all down at playing some golf together, and everybody, by the end of the night, everybody's kind of getting a little bit loose, and everybody's getting in my face and talking to me, and we're just cutting up and having a good time, but it was so weird. I was like,
Yeah.
y'all get on my nerves. I'm going to bed.
I tried to do that with my family too, because as Josh knows, it's like a pretty normal thing for everybody to just, have some drinks, be drinking. Nobody gets like loud or weird or whatever. Well,
Because they're always
maybe.
loud.
Yeah.
Sober or not.
That's very true. Sober or not, it's a loud family. But just being sober, like while everybody else was having drinks, I was like, this is gonna be interesting, and it ended up great. Like I'm lucky that I really enjoy the people in my family, and I love my family, and it's more fun to like have a beer while you're playing cornhole, in my opinion. But like alcohol doesn't negatively affect me because I'm not doing it constantly. If like I pick like a weekend out of the month to go do it, or if I have a drink when I go out to dinner with my family, like it's not a huge chip. Like it doesn't hurt my body in a really negative way. I found out wine does, and that's like a heartbreaker. Oh my gosh, red wine. It's one of my favorite things, and it just fucks me up, and it's like no fun at all.
Yeah, I can't really even enjoy. I can have maybe one drink and it's fun. My kind of rule is I'll have one or two, but I'll never have three. When I break that rule, it's fun for like an hour or so, and then it is like I can't sleep. We're in the Oura ring. Like not that I need that to tell me what's going on. Like my heart is beating out of my chest. I do not sleep.
Yeah.
I feel like shit the next day, and that's what happened when I started getting healthy. Right, I started doing like paleo, keto, intermittent fat, all these things. I would be a saint Monday through Friday, but as soon as Friday hit, I was drinking a bottle of liquor, right? And I would be so hungover Saturday and Sunday, and then not feel good until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday again. I would be in the meetings on Monday morning wearing shades because I was just one of the biggest meetings I ever had. I'm not even gonna say it was a large corporate company, and I just got on the account. And I had to go from being wild and crazy Mitch to being serious Mitch for the first time in my life, right? So they show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was going to be a good boy on Sunday, and I had this huge edible, right? I've never made edibles. Somebody brought me like what you do dabs with. What is that called?
Wax.
Somebody brought a bunch of wax over. Nobody knew what wax was this time. So I take it and make a bunch of cookies with it because I knew about edibles.
Oh, no.
So I didn't know how strong it was, bro. Everybody's passing the bong around and stuff while we're watching football and drinking beers and stuff, and I'm like, I don't need anything to drink. I don't even need to hit the bong. Like I'm good. And I was not like blitzed out of my mind high. I was just like cruising, feeling good. The next morning, I was still so high.
Oh no!
And I'm sitting in that meeting just like nervous, got my glasses on, and the lady that was my like assistant kind of thing. I went home after that. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. I went home and I'm like, I couldn't even wake up. And I come back after like 1 o'clock and she's like, oh, your eyes are finally open. I'm like, oh my God.
Like,
so embarrassed.
Stop judging me.
Yeah. I said I was going to grow up.
Yeah. No such luck.
What was fascinating for me, really learning about how to optimize my health and take accountability for my choices, was the scenery changed so much and the people like my life, where I went, where I hung around, or where I didn't anymore. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time by myself doing different things. Right. And then I started noticing, and Jackie was hearing a lot more of it than I was just kind of picking up, but like people kind of like talking about, oh, Josh has changed, or he won't come out and drink with the boys anymore, or hang out. And because I knew that in order to get to where I wanted to go, I had to separate myself from places, experiences, and people that would influence me. And granted, it was my choice, but I didn't believe I was strong enough at the time to be in those places around those people and not participate. Same. And so I had to remove myself, and then I just started diving into learning about how to optimize my health and my mind. And I was really, at the time, it was still when I was focused on competition. So I was like, let's get after it. And I had my last year competing was my best year competing ever. And so like I got to leave on a high note. But I was like with the mindset, like, I wonder if I had paid more attention to all this at the beginning and all throughout my career at a young age, how much better I would have excelled.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting, and which is what's great because it led you and I to connecting, becoming friends. But like separating from myself from people I thought were my friends, that when I decided to not participate in the similar activities, they no longer wanted to appreciate me for who I was, or they would badmouth me behind my back. Yeah. And then I would find out things like that. And it was just really interesting to see how when you change, other people's perceptions of you are challenged, and then their insecurities shows in terms of negativity towards you.
Yeah.
That's a whole different podcast, man.
For sure. It's you know, I almost kind of get this feeling too. I used to fight it. Like, I feel like I had to turn it off when I was around friends and family. Not necessarily family. I mean, you really do find out who your true friends are.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that are like, hey man, like, we don't care, you know, what you've been through or what you're going through right now. Like, we got your back and we love you no matter what.
Yeah.
But those other people, those are the ones that want to see the monkey dance. That they want to see me like be crazy, Mitch, and like they called me the pusher dude because I was just pushing drinks on everybody. Just want to get everybody super fucked up. And so I had to find a balance. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I had to find a balance between being fun without having alcohol, and that was really hard for me in the beginning. And that's why I was so excited to meet you guys, because I don't have to be that person anymore. I can just be Mitch, and I can talk about like the fucking keto diet if I want to. But there is a line, and Katie's very much like, hey, you don't have to talk about health right now. You know, and that's what
Jackie
I'm passionate
tells me about.
Oh yeah, no, you guys are saying, but I understand that, and so I realized that I got so narrowly focused on optimizing my health and healing my body, not even optimization, healing, that's all I could talk about. And so when I'm hanging out with my friends and I'm talking about like Lyme disease and stuff, and they're like, bro.
Even when you and I were with your dad and Tim, they were, they were like, your dad was like, Tim, you want to talk about something else? Because we just were like, it's just habit, you know, we just were passionate about it. And granted, we would want them to be included in the conversation, but we know that people are all kind of like where they are with different interests, and we've realized that we don't want to scare people away. But
So what I would say to the listener is, if you're passionate about something, be passionate about it, be in love with it, and find that tribe, that group of people that can be passionate with you. You don't have to reinvent yourself. You don't have to be somebody you don't want to be. Do what you love, and that'll set you free.
Good place to end.
Yeah.
Agreed.